Hi, I'm Juliet. Have you ever wanted to write a documentary script? Scrivener 3 for Windows has a format for that. The documentary format has the usual About page at the top. If you read the first paragraph, you'll see that this is designed as much more of a rough guide than some other templates, although they are all technically that. As I've never tried a documentary script before, I did a search and found there are indeed many and various formats online, but they do mostly seem to have the same table style. So be sure you've researched the format for where you're submitting the script before creating it. This format is based on a 3-column display, as you can see in the sample script. The 3 columns here being video, timing, and audio. So this is much more complicated than a fiction script. Let's look at our scene document in the binder. You'll see those 3 columns created in a table format. The titles for these are set in the compile header, which I suppose is because they're needed at the top of each page. We'll look at those later. You can change the column widths if you want, but that will screw up the headings. If you need different column widths, make sure you change the columns before you start, because it'll be a pain to do later. And do it in the version in the Templates folder, so that it'll apply to all future documents created in this project. You can delete the original scene once you've done that, and generate a new one. Now, this script format isn't created using script mode, so it's simply a case of typing your information into the columns. Your biggest issue is going to be lining things up across the page, because it doesn't seem as if actual table lines are expected to break up the individual rows of a script in many of the online examples. Lines only appear across the bigger sections. The sample script confirms this. So you'll have to line things up in the columns manually with returns. That's not good when things change. It's a nightmare. It takes me back to the dark ages of Multimate. Anyone else remember that? This would be easy in Microsoft Word, as you could have a table without internal borders. Scrivener tables aren't that sophisticated. You can't even remove all the visible lines without them disappearing completely, even though they're there. What I would suggest if you use this format is putting the extra rows in, so you can easily line things up, and sorting those lines out once you take it into Microsoft Word, by making them invisible. If you need sections to your script that have page breaks between them, use the section template for that. By far the easiest way to get the first one of these into your script, in my opinion, is to duplicate it from the templates folder, move it, and rename it. Now for the print format. There is a specific documentary script compile format, which is set simply to compile as is from the page. The only notable thing about it is that header under page settings. As I mentioned earlier, it contains the column titles. It's difficult to see. Here's what's in it. The project title placeholder takes the project name from the metadata, so you'll need to fill that out, and puts it in caps. Then you have the page number of total number of pages. Finally, there are the video and audio headings, which are just text, spaced out. As you can see in the sample, they aren't perfectly aligned, which bugs me. Okay, one more thing. If you have multiple scene documents, in compile they get put together with those blank rows you see in the sample. You can remove those in the table section of the format if you want, which means you'll have to generate a custom format. I wasn't going to do a proper test compile because mocking up one of these would, honestly, be annoying to me. In my opinion, well, let's put it this way, I wouldn't use Scrivener to create one of these. It lost me with the idea of manually lining up the text in the columns, or having to do a whole load of sorting in Word. But I wanted to show you how you could sort the headings out properly. So, there are 2 ways to sort the column headings. Okay, 3 if you consider using the spacebar as an option, I don't. First, you can copy a row of the table into the header, where those titles are. Remove the lines on the table and center the titles within the correct boxes. But there's a better way of doing repeating headings in continuous tables in Word. I'll show you that in a future video, which will be here once it's live.